Alrighty, here we go. All right, there we are. How you doing? I'm Ernesto Garcia. Welcome to the Sea Valley News Sports Podcast from the Broken Spoke TapHouse at the Amador Live. And, of course, we are here once again. Our favorite Danielle's here. Max is off tonight. He's up in Colorado enjoying, but don't worry, he plans to be back next week. And we'll start our time now at 5 o'clock for the show on all the podcast platforms on YouTube. We'll also be on Twitter, Facebook, everything else as well. So make sure to follow through no matter which of the platforms you're watching on. We want to thank you again. And, of course, we send a big shout out to Max, who had a great New Year's Eve party. And, of course, there's the great beer specials going on. And, of course, new hours coming pretty soon here at the Broken Spoke Tap House, especially for the lunchtime. So be aware for that. It is coming soon. We've got a big show today. We got Kathy Rhodoff, head coach of the NMSU softball team, joining us. But on deck first, we're going to welcome our good friend Stephen Wagner from the Las Cruces Sun News Sports. He helps out with our good friend Jason Groves and our good friend Lucas Pierman, who always do a great job. Lucas, a big season ticket holder for Aggie basketball. Probably you don't see him very much, but he's standing up quite a bit, yelling at some officials once in a while. Don't you have to look at him sometimes and go, it was actually a good call there, Lucas?
Oh, believe me, I get my fair share of text messages from him during the game.
Yeah, he's like, why did they call that one? What happened here? Is that what he's trying to figure out?
A little bit of that and a little bit just telling me what angle I need to take on my story.
There you go. Lucas, hope you are enjoying the Aggie basketball season. We are enjoying college basketball. We're watching some games here right now. Texas is down by how many to Kansas State?
They are down by 6 to a Kansas State team that only has 8 players on the bench.
Wow. Well, let's talk about it right off the bat. Let's get to NMSU basketball. Whack plague. Well, we had one game already canceled because of COVID. More coming soon?
Hopefully not. And I think that's really the sentiment that you've seen, like, really throughout the entire NMSU athletic facility. Talked to Chris Jans the other day, asked him a couple of questions about it, and he said that, one of the weird advantages that they have is they've been down this road before. Obviously, they're hoping for as many games as they possibly can, but this is something that, they feel like they have done before, and they did. You look at the catastrophe that they had to deal with last season where they were just horrendously unlucky in terms of COVID cancellations, in terms of, not being able to practice and play in the state of New Mexico, in terms of, the entire mess of stuff that they had to deal with. That's a road that they've been down before. But another thing that Jans really wanted to press home was the fact that, things are a little bit more normal this year. The players still are sleeping in their own beds. They're playing at the Pan Am. They're playing in front of fans very regularly. They have at least, some expectation of what the schedule should look like. And, everything isn't on pins and needles, although with the Lamar game, certainly might be. I know Lamar had their New Year's Day game against Stephen F. Austin canceled because of COVID issues in the Cardinals program. And I believe they played their game against Sam Houston State with either 7 or 8 available players on the bench. So certainly these are issues that the entire league is dealing with, and we've seen the Aggies certainly deal with it too within the coaching staff.
So if I'm reading right, the NCAA rules, which, by the way, if you want to read more about this article, it's online, Los-Cruces, lc-sunnews.com, right? There you go.
That sounds right.
Yeah, lc-sunnews.com. I'll make sure Lucas gets me that website there, or else he's going to yell at me there. But no, so there's a chance Thursday's game could have a cancellation here, and would we know in the next 24 hours, 48 hours if that's going to happen? Or
well, the term that every administrator, coach, player that I've talked to so far has been fluid. The situation remains fluid. And I think that rings pretty true for basically everybody in all of the conferences, is the situation is very fluid. Again, like I said, Lamar has been dealing with some stuff. As of now, everybody expects to play. Not sure if associate head coach James Miller will be back or not. He's currently in COVID protocol. He's the third Aggie coach to be in COVID protocol this year. Jans and Taylor were also in for a time. But certainly fluidity really seems to be the theme that everybody is driving home right now. I would expect the game to be played. That's just what I personally think is going to happen. Of course, we have no idea if that actually is going to happen or not. But the team flies out, I believe, tomorrow. I believe that's what Charlie Hurley, the SID, told me. And certainly what they want to avoid is any sort of scenario where the team, where any WAC team travels to the location of where they're going to play, and then something happens at the last minute where the game has to be canceled, and you spent all of this time and money and energy traveling from one location to another, only for that game to eventually be canceled. And that really seems to be what everybody's trying to avoid right now.
Stephen Wagner, who follows the MSU Aggie basketball team, is our guest right now, and thank you for joining us. So I got a couple of things to bring out and point up from the WAC here. I believe I read somewhere and it must have been on Twitter somewhere, that the WAC will not consider, let's say the Aggies show up and then somehow Lamar cancels, they're considering it a no contest instead of a forfeit. Is that correct?
So the way the rules are written right now is if a game is canceled due to COVID issues in either one or both programs, both university administration, school officials, whomever's in charge of this are to work together to try to find an alternate date for the game to be rescheduled to. Okay. If an alternate date cannot be found, that game will be considered a no contest and not a forfeit. And the WAC updated that on, I believe, December 27th.
I'll tell you what, that really plays into what could be coming down the road here, because now not only you have to look at COVID being a part of this, sending cancellations. If these games come to no contest, those affect win and loss record numbers, and that kind of hurts you down on rankings where you need to be when it comes to selection committee showtime, especially then, even though it's pretty much set that it's probably got to be a WAC championship to get in to the NCAA tournament.
They do, and that is something that I think, teams and coaches are definitely going to be mindful of. They're going to be cognizant of that, and it's something that certainly nobody's going to be happy with, but it's kind of just the reality of the world that we live in right now. I mean, we saw last year, and this was, among every conference in college basketball, everyone dealt with this to some degree. I don't know if there was a conference where every single team played the same number of games.
Yeah.
And where, you could go into the conference tournament with the seeding, and you could go into the NCAA tournament with the seeding, like evenly distributed among all the teams. I mean, NMSU only played 20 total games last year, something like that. It's just, quite frankly, it isn't fair, but unfortunately, that's the world that we're living in right now. And teams are just kind of being forced to make the most of it. But like Christian said, the Aggies have been down this road before.
Well, I tell you what, that's something that I'm very much looking forward to. I'd love to see the Aggies get a couple of games, and then, of course, they'll get UT-RGV on Saturday, so making the Texas swing part of this trip here, which is, this is the hard thing about it. I was really looking forward to seeing what the WAC would be like, but now I'm also like, I have to realize this is the real WAC now. Do you think there's going to be other conferences, Power 5 conferences, that are going to have games? Because we've seen them through all conferences in the NCAA. Games have been canceled and stuff, trying to make updates. They're all trying to get them in at certain times. Could that make a strain on trips? And then suddenly you could be playing 3 to 4 games a week as we get to February, heading into those March tournaments?
I definitely think that is a possibility. And, like you said, last year, that was something that we saw very, very frequently. That was not, that wasn't odd for anybody to be playing, 3 or 4 games right down the stretch and getting into conference play, or for some teams even having so much as a 2-week layoff before conference play began. And, we've seen before that there can be significant rust and there can be significant wear and tear whenever you don't have the luxury of having a consistent schedule. That's something that I think everybody really wants to avoid if they possibly can. If that means that some games come to no contests, so be it. But I would imagine that every school is going to want to get in as close to, I think it's an 18-game schedule in conference play as they possibly can. What the logistics of it are, I think, are just going to vary from school to school and situation to situation, just depending on how many players and coaches are going to be available from each school.
In 2020, when we were pretty much shut down and everything was going on, I remember sitting down having a conversation with the gentleman. We had just got baseball games going on. He says, do you think the NFL can play a season in sports with COVID? I said, they'll find a way to play. But I think what we're going to see, and this is something that I don't know if you're seeing as well, is all sports, even college sports, the ones that you're following and anything such, is going to have a COVID list now. we'd have the injured reserve and a COVID list. And he laughed at that idea, going like, and what you're going to see is probably a lot of other people get a chance to play, which I like it. That means the underdog has a shot. Your practice guy squads obviously are showing up on the NFL, and suddenly they make it to starting lineups because of a COVID part situation. And I said, what's also funny is watching the bookings and Caesars Booking and B and Bet MGM. Boy, they certainly took a big crunch with COVID, because suddenly all you need to know is worry about who's on the COVID list and who's not.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and leave it right there. Yeah, we're getting Steven's food here ready to go. He's the first time here to try it out, but you go ahead and mention what you were going to say.
Yeah. So, I was looking at this the other week, and this is something that kind of fascinated me. I was looking at, so one of the statistics that KenPom actually tracks, is luck. And they basically have a metric where they calculate how good or bad, a team should be in a given season, how many points they're expected to score, how many games they're roughly expected to win or lose, so on and so forth. And, whatever kind of doesn't happen is considered luck. Regardless of whether this is, pointing to like an individual, like event that happens in a game, like a ball literally like bounces somebody's way, or, you're missing so-and-so on the COVID list.
You're missing the best player because on the COVID list. Yeah.
Say something happens. Jabari Rice, Johnny McCanson, Nate Pryor, and Teddy Allen all are knocked out for a game because they're in COVID protocol, which, would be incredibly unfortunate. But at this point, I don't think that's something that anybody is ruling out as a definite by any means. But that kind of calculates into how lucky or unlucky a team is going to be. And I think the way that you can actually overcome that, I shouldn't really say overcome that, but I think the way that we're going to see things play out is the best teams and the deepest teams in the WAC are going to prevail. And right now, that just happens to be NMSU. You look at the way that their bench has played in recent games, especially with the emergence of Chi Avery. He's got 17 points, 22 points, and 11 points in his last 3 games. He's shooting over 65%. He's just been absolutely on fire from the field. This is a unique advantage that NMSU has that a lot of schools are not going to have. That's an advantage that Lamar certainly isn't going to have. That's an advantage that Chicago State isn't going to have. That's an advantage that, probably everybody in the conference except for NMSU, Stephen F. Austin, Grand Canyon, and Abilene Christian aren't going to have. And so it just presents, kind of a weird situation that really is reminiscent of 2020 in a lot of ways, where I think we're going to see some teams really get unlucky whenever they inevitably get bit by the COVID bug, because I think this is getting to the point where it's going to be something that everybody has to deal with at some point. But ultimately, the teams with the deepest benches are going to prevail, and the teams with the most talent are going to prevail. And right now, it certainly seems like NMSU is that team.
Well, let's talk about NMSU in this WAC conference. It's not your dad's WAC, as I like to say, anymore. It has certainly changed quite a bit, and we've got some teams that are really going to be up there. As you saw, Grand Canyon pulled out a big win against San Francisco. You had Stephen F. Austin holding somewhat true against Kansas. I think the Jayhawks were still short on some players on that game, but got through. You got an Abilene Christian team that said, okay, yeah, we lost our coach, but we're still pretty decent here, and it's not a cupcake walk like it's been in the past before.
Abilene Christian so far this year has really been the surprise to me in the WAC. I knew that they would be good. I knew that they would be competitive. I didn't expect them to be this good now that Joe Golding has left for UTEP, which was that I didn't understand at all, but or a decision that I didn't understand at all by Joe Golding. But I feel like that's something that we can get into a much different time. Abilene Christian has really, really been a surprise to me. NMSU looks strong again. Take the scores aside. If I told you that NMSU was going to be 12-2 on January 4th and they were going to win their WAC opener by 17 points, I don't think anybody would have been surprised. I've said this earlier. I don't think I would have been able to guess that the 2 losses were going to be to New Mexico at home and then a 27-point blowout to Utah State. But right now, with the quality of wins that some of these different teams have, you look at the quality of wins that NMSU has, especially, and Grand Canyon, specifically looking at their wins over Davidson and San Francisco. Both of those schools are receiving votes, and that's something that is going to be weighed very considerably whenever tournament time rolls around and whenever seeding rolls around. I think it seems pretty clear the higher the seed that NMSU can get, the better a chance they're going to have. I mean, I don't think anyone wants them. I don't think anybody in Las Cruces wants them to be a 15 seed or a 14 seed at that rate, just because that significantly lowers your chance of being able to pull off a first round win. And, winning a tournament game for Chris Jans, I mean, that would be the icing on the cake of the legacy that he's built at NMSU. I mean, you look over the last, I believe, 5 years or something like that. I think Chris Jans is either the fourth or fifth winningest head coach in all of Division I sports. I saw the graphic on ESPN. He was up there with names like Mike Krzyzewski and Bill Self. Right underneath that is Chris Jans. So I think a tournament win would definitely be something that would cement his legacy here in a lot of ways, and all of that comes down to seeding. And right now, with NMSU's quality wins over Davidson, who knocked off number 10 Alabama and is now receiving votes, and their win at a Power 5 school in Washington State, I think you've got to be feeling pretty good about not only the overall direction of the WAC, but where NMSU sits as well, because a competitive conference is certainly good for everybody. And whenever you have four schools that are all kind of gunning for each other at the top of the league, that's something that definitely helps everyone in the WAC.
Well, I got a couple more Aggie questions for you. Then I'm going to let you have some fun with some fun questions. And by the way, you're still remembering the Texas win, right, against USC from back in 2008?
Yeah, celebrated this morning.
You started celebrating. Yeah, I thought your Twitter made that pretty clear. Didn't the Horns win this one? It was a great game to watch, but probably one of the best college football games I've ever seen in my life. So would you agree on that?
Oh, that was the game that made 6-year-old me fall in love with football.
Oh, okay, there you go. I'm not going to tell you how old I was when that came out, because that would be way old. Focusing on the Aggies, the point guard position. How do you feel they're doing, and do you think that they got some things that they're still working on, and who's going to run the point when we're seeing them in the WAC tournament?
Yeah, so I asked this question to Chris Jans the other day in his press conference. Jans said that right now he certainly envisions seeing a good dose of Mario McKinney and Nate Pryor. There's going to be certain stretches where he's going to favor one or the other. But the way that he kind of put it made it sound like we shouldn't be ruling out a two-point guard system. Not necessarily in the context of having 2 point guards in the starting lineup, but in seeing really good doses of each point guard in any given game, in any given week, over any given stretch of time, barring an injury to one point guard or the other. I know Nate Pryor certainly had his battles with injuries, but right now, he was very complimentary of their skill sets. I think Nate really gives kind of a calming leadership presence whenever he's on the court. You just watch him with the basketball. He looks very calm. He's not very easily overwhelmed. He's very collected. I think a lot of that is the veteran in him. He's a junior. He played at he's played at the Power 5 level before. Mario McKinney's he's a lot more of a speedster. He's hyper athletic for his size. I mean, you watch the way this guy can jump. Honest to God, I'm shocked that he can't dunk. I mean, I'm looking at this dude, go for rebounds. It looks like he's getting like a 40.
He gets up there.
It looks like he's grabbing like a 40-inch vertical. And so I can definitely see realities where both of their skill sets are going to be needed at different times. And it looks like that's what Jans is really favoring right now, because certainly they've both shown that they can produce when they're on the court. But there might be, some games where one plays a lot better than the other. And Chris Jans has shown that he definitely likes to ride the hot hand whenever that hand gets hot.
We're in the WAC tournament. We're in the finals. Who are the two teams playing?
NMSU and Grand Canyon.
You got Grand Canyon for sure. This will be a best of three for the Aggies in Grand Canyon again this year?
I definitely think so. I've got Grand Canyon being up there. I just don't see another school that has the quality of win that Grand Canyon has and the consistent level of play. Utah Valley knocked off BYU earlier in the season, but BYU has dropped straight out of the top 25, and Utah Valley has a couple of other bad losses. I really think that the top 4 teams are NMSU, Grand Canyon, Stephen F. Austin, and Abilene Christian. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to NMSU and Grand Canyon.
All right. Stephen, we're going to have some fun with some other questions here. I want to have a little chat with you on the college football championships here. Get Monday. Who do you got, Alabama or Georgia?
Oh, I got Bama. If there's one thing my wallet has learned in sports betting, it's don't bet against Nick Saban. Betting against Nick Saban is never a good idea.
What's the final score? Okay, yes to think here.
I'm going to take Bama 28-17.
I was going to say 21-14, but I was going to say ain't going to be that much scoring going on.
There's not going to be that much scoring, and I think you need quite frankly, no shade to the guy, but I think you need a quarterback who's better than Stetson Bennett if you're going to have a shot to beat Alabama, or at least Stetson Bennett's going to need to play like Deshaun Watson in 2016 if he's going to be able to pull something off like that.
All right, I got a couple more fun ones for you. What was more fun to watch, the 2 college football playoff games to get to the championship or the Sun Bowl?
That's another great question. I'm going to have to confess, I did not watch the Sun Bowl.
Oh, you missed the Chippewas come out there and play.
I was flying around, and I caught a few minutes of the fourth quarter, and I saw that the Chippewas looked like they were going to blow a massive lead. And then I saw Washington State briefly storm back on my phone. But after watching the 2 semifinal games, I'm really starting to wish that I did watch the Sun Bowl instead. That sounds like it was a way more entertaining game.
Is Antonio Brown going to be remembered more for? Okay, how about this? Antonio Brown, looking at him, remembering him as a great wide receiver or a rapper, because he's now got a hip hop song now that he's coming out with. What do you think he'll do better at?
I think Antonio Brown is going to be remembered for different stuff entirely. I think once you throw your shirt into the crowd at a Jets game, that kind of cements your legacy right then and there. I don't think there's very much debating that.
Well, he's got a hip hop song you can find on Instagram now. Kyrie Irving, does he play or not play Wednesday? See, I got him pretty good. I can handle the sports guy pretty good.
This is good. I'm going to be thinking of this.
He's thinking here.
I'm going to go yes, he will play. I don't know why. I'm taking a shot in the dark, and I'm taking a blind guess.
Taking a guess that he's going to play.
I'm just taking a guess that he's going to play.
Okay.
I have no idea.
There you go.
I have not been able to predict anything about the NBA this season.
Okay. Football playoffs coming through. Last one. Who's in the Super Bowl in your opinion? If you had to say right now.
Give me Kansas City.
Ooh. Chiefs returning back.
And give me Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers finally beats Brady.
So a replay of the first ever World Championship game?
I think Rodgers finally beats Brady. We're going. Hey, time is a continuous circle. Like we are completing the circle right here. We're getting back to Chiefs Packers.
All right. Well, you enjoy your burger here from the Broken Spoke TapHouse. I'm glad they got in and you're all checking out. Nice place here. We should check it out again. And we're going to bring you back a couple more times. So I think you have a little more fun. Let's see how the Aggies are doing this season.
All right. Sounds great. Might even have a beer while I'm here.
All right. There you go. Well, next time it's on me. All right. I promise. Next time we have more time. Stephen Wagner joining us here today. Appreciate it. You have yourself a good one, sir. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Right. Thanks a bunch.
Catch him in the Las Cruces Sun News. Follow him on this Twitter as well. He keeps you up to date right away. We're going to bring in Kathy Rhodoff next. So let's go ahead and switch over there and we can move there and we'll go from there, buddy. All right. So appreciate it. And I'll just put that mic down there for you and we'll get going. Stephen, once again, will follow the Aggies. And, of course, they'll play Thursday night against Lamar at 7 o'clock. Next up, we're going to bring in the head coach of our NMSU softball team. We love this lady because she does an amazing job. Stephen's introducing himself to Caddy real quick. So here we go. She's going to be joining us here in just a second. And we'll be joining her here in just a second here at the Broken Spoke TapHouse. Make sure to see you for the New Year's. There you go. We'll see you, Stephen. Have a good one. All right, Kathy, thanks for joining us. How you doing, my friend?
Great. How about you?
Good. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I haven't seen you in such a while. COVID, since last time you were here talking with us. It's great to see you. How's everything been going?
You know what? Great. We're about to get started again. The kids are filtering back in, and we start two-a-days on Friday. So,
all right. So it's coming Friday. It's already starting.
You know, it seems like time just absolutely flies by. You know, you blink and there was the preseason, then there was Christmas break, and here we go.
Well, let's talk about the season. I went online to try to look at a schedule. It's not out yet, so we're waiting for, still putting some things together.
You know what? It should be out within the next couple of days. We're going to start off the first 2 weekends at home. We have Texas State coming in, and we're going to play Oregon State on Sunday here. Then the following weekend, we have a big tournament: Nebraska, Iowa State, UT Arlington, Southeast Louisiana, Northern Colorado, and us. Then we'll be open. Then we're off to Vegas, and we play UNLV twice, Washington twice over there. Then the following weekend, Arizona State twice. We have Arizona coming in for a doubleheader. So our preseason's going to be pretty stacked.
Well, that is great. Now, if I'm not mistaken, last year you spent like a whole month of February in Florida, didn't you?
And it was 5.5 weeks.
5.5. Did you get residency there too, by the way?
It was probably the craziest experience that I've had in coaching. But, when we got shut down, we asked the university to let us go to Orlando, and it was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We stayed in mega mansion homes over there. I think we had a 12-bedroom for the kids, a 9-bedroom for the kids, and an 8-bedroom for the staff. And
How
we
many
only
baths, by the way, because that's important.
It's almost a bath per bedroom.
Per bathroom. Okay, gotcha.
And we only paid $300 a night for houses. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was in a gated community. But the things that come along with challenges, when we got over there, I just assumed we'd be able to get in a weight room, and nobody would let us in because of COVID protocol. So we had to do our own training. We only had one little small pitching machine. The closest facility that we could find to work out was 45 minutes from our houses. And then you add on the 2-hour time change and classes on top of that. It was unbelievable.
I can only imagine. Kathy Rhodoff at MSU, softball coach. You're not Steven here. I'm going to put your name right there better. Sorry about that. We'll get that fixed there. But I'm glad you're getting a chance to join us. And like I said, so this was in a unique situation because of COVID. That's why you were in Florida most of the year. Still, another good season go by, but it was a very different, weird season. It's just not like normal, was it?
Well, I think we only played in Las Cruces 3 weekends, which is crazy because normally we only play 5 or 6 weekends away from Las Cruces. So we started off the season over there, and I think we went 9-12. And I mean, we were getting pummeled. We were playing South Florida and Kentucky and a bunch of teams that had not been shut down from COVID. And to be honest with you, training matters. And we had, I think we had 9 freshmen, and they were quarantined to their dorm 28 days out of the 50 they were here in the fall. And so we really hadn't gotten to train or anything else. But when we finally got to come home, we went 21-9 and won conference on the last weekend. So I was super proud of the growth.
Well, I tell you what, growth has been great. And then you come back and then suddenly it's a whole new whack. Boy, we got some new teams coming in this year. And it's going to make things interesting in a conference here. And then, okay, we'll see you for 1 year. Then we're off to Conference USA. Let's talk first about the whack and the new additions and how that's going to play. And at least one new addition will be heading over to Conference USA.
Well, I feel like our side of the WAC is extremely challenging for softball. You've got Grand Canyon, Seattle, Cal Baptist, that are all eligible for postseason, along with Utah Valley. Dixie State is still transitioning, so they're not eligible yet for the tournament. And we've got Southern Utah coming in. And so I think, Cal Baptist and Grand Canyon both have new coaches and a ton of transfers with experience, 5th-year seniors due to COVID. So, I think it's going to be quite the challenge. And then the conference tournament will be over on the Texas side at Sam Houston State. And so what's unique to me is we don't get to play any of the Texas schools. So
they're not going to show up on the schedules. No, wow.
So we'll only play our side and then be seated in the tournament, and we'll see the Texas schools.
Have you ever seen it done like that before?
No.
Why is it like that then?
When the Texas schools came in, there was a commitment by the presidents that at least in the first year there would be no crossover. I think if it was up to the coaches, we would have liked to have at least 1 or 2 weekends of crossover.
I think we're right there. We're like, we can easily go. We can make a trip, but I get what the conferences are trying to do. But this is only a 1 year transition, because in the next year it's Conference USA, and at least Sam Houston State and us go there to play now with UTEP, and so that'll be a whole different conference there too.
Well, when I came, I'll date myself. I'm about to start my 20th season.
I know. I was going to say you were here when the Sun Belt was around.
When the Sun Belt was here, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Florida International was in the conference, so, and as well as Louisiana Tech. So to me, I've already played at those schools. I know what to expect at those schools. Now, Liberty, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston will be in Lamar, I believe, will be new adventures for me. But I think that the kids identify with Conference USA. And so I think as far as recruiting goes, it won't really change a lot.
Wow. I tell you what, this is an excitement part. Like I said, the schedule will be out in a couple of days. You just recently signed 2 new players. I believe you got 2 catchers, one from Long Beach and one from Alamogordo.
I did. I'm super excited both about Kendall and Devin. Both of them are phenomenal young ladies, as well as very talented softball players. Kendall Lunar from Alamogordo, I love to try to look for, I'm a fellow New Mexican, so I try to scour and try to keep the talent in New Mexico and southern New Mexico. So I'm super excited about Kendall. She is going to be a force to be reckoned with behind the plate. Devin is on one of the top travel ball teams in the country, the Corona Angels. She is a 6-foot catcher, comes with a lot of size and a lot of power. And so we'll be looking for her to hit in the middle of the order and hopefully get her feet wet right away.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're not going to waste any time. Transfer portal, how's that been working for you? Is there any players coming or going from your team this year?
So far, I have not had anybody out of the portal. I don't know. I don't know really how I feel about it. I think that anymore recruiting is kind of crazy and kids kind of decide early, and so sometimes it's not a great fit. I take a lot of pride in really getting to know the kids that I recruit, and so I don't do things very quickly. I want to make sure that they fit the Aggie softball family, and so I'm sure that there's going to be a time that I'm going to need some experience out of the portal, but as of so far, I haven't gone that route.
Do you feel like it's, I remember Coach Kill saying that he's very cautious of this thing, and he's new football coach, and he's like, I wish I could sit down with some players and explain to them what they're doing, because this is a one-time thing you do. And once you do it, nothing changes. It's not always grass is greener on the other side, but that's one of those things that you've always had in your 2 decades plus of coaching, is you love having that family conversation. They're a part of the team. And I mean, you have alumni games that do really well, better than almost any alumni at NMSU.
Well, I think that it is basically my view on how we transition this into a college setting. We bring in young women and then we grow them up for a living. And so hopefully on the other side of graduation, they get to go out into the world and make the world a better place because they're in it. So I want a chance to get to know. I have a philosophy that I don't want to recruit somebody that if I was still a player, I wouldn't want to play with. Gotcha. I believe in my ability to develop talent. And so I'm not super worried about whether somebody has all 5 tools or not. I believe that I'm going to search through all the rock piles till I find one that fits my rock pile, and then we're going to go to work trying to see what we can build.
After your 2 decades plus, you love your chili, you love your Mexican food, you also love your local high school coaches that love talking with you as well. What have you heard from them this season so far?
You know what? Everybody's great. We haven't had as many camps as we'd like to, mainly because of COVID. It's been really kind of touchy. Every time you think, oh, okay, let's get a group together, and then you think, whoa, I don't know. We get a lot of support locally. I feel like it'll be sellouts when we have Arizona, and I would expect a big crowd for Nebraska and Iowa State. And if anybody that likes softball, they need to come out and check us out. We got to play a couple of times this fall, and I think the last day We played over at UTEP and played UTEP in Midland College. And I think on the day we hit 11 home runs, 2 or 3 grand slams, and scored over 25 runs. So I'm excited to see what we're going to develop.
Coach Rhodoff, let me ask you another question. I see a lot of construction being done around baseball. Have there been any improvements over to Prescott Field on the softball end?
There hasn't yet. I know that Mario spoke to me a couple of times about trying to work with some donors to kind of upgrade both softball and soccer. And I think maybe we're a little bit behind, but I hope that we're going to be able to improve it for the girls as well.
What was one thing you would like to see improved, or something you wanted done at the field that you would like to have for the coming season's future?
I think chairback seating and shade really would add a lot, because I think the fans really like to come out and watch, but the sun coming in from right field just blasts them. And so I think after about 2 hours, that's all they can take and they're gone. I think a covered hitting facility really provides a place where you're not just getting beat down by the sun all the time. You can also use different hitting simulators and different things to really prepare for your opponents. So I think a lot of the training resources make a big difference.
I tell you what, I hope you get those resources soon, because I know as we go to Conference USA, it's time for all of us to step our game up. What do you want to say to Aggie fans this year? I know anxiously waiting to see the schedule, get their season tickets. Obviously, I love it when the students get a chance to go and cheer on the teams as well. They always have a blast. I know you have this great connection in the community here. What do you say to the Aggie community, and what should they be looking forward to in 2022?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to the university for the opportunity to represent New Mexico State softball. Thank you to Mario for his support. As far as the fans of Las Cruces, you're phenomenal. Come out and watch. I promise you, we will hook you on exciting play.
Yes, indeed. I look forward to seeing you. Are we going to see you again before sometime around the season if we get a chance again?
That would be awesome. It's always good to see you.
Always good to see. You know, like I said, we haven't seen each other in almost 2 years because of this pandemic, but it is great to see you, Coach. It's great to see you moving. How many years now? 20?
I'm starting my 20th season.
20th season. No signs of retiring either, by the way, okay? I don't even ask that.
I said as long as it's fun and I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, then...
You said that to me in 3 interviews ago, 4 years ago. I can even say that a decade ago you said that. And you've been enjoying it since, and you certainly bring a great community together here. And I tell you what, softball has never been more exciting, so I'm looking forward to it. Love the national attention it got during the Olympics, too. Did you enjoy watching some of that?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we got to play Team Mexico over at the University of Arizona last year, and funny true story, we were up on them 5-3 going into the 6th inning, and I thought we were actually going to end up beating them, and then Sierra Romero came in and hit a home run. They beat us 7-5. But what I really was excited to show the girls, we can swing it with anybody. And, you know, the game doesn't know who's supposed to win. So the opponent goes in the other dugout, and we're going to give it our best.
Just like in baseball, one pitch can certainly make a difference. And until you get that final out, you don't celebrate.
No, not at all.
You've had I don't know how the heartbreakers you've ever dealt with in my life. I'm like, that's enough to put me back in the hospital.
I think last year we were playing a team, and I won't mention who it was. It was in conference, and we were down 8 or 9-0 in the 5th inning and about to get run rolled, and we came back and won the game.
I remember that one.
And
I
so,
do remember that one.
You know, anything is possible if you believe.
Coach Kathy Rhodoff joining us here on the Mesilla Valley News Sports Podcast from the Broken Spoke TapHouse. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back next week, new time starting at 5 o'clock. Mike Kirby going to be joining us, baseball coach. So we'll be talking with him. And
go baseball. Go Aggies.
And support our softball program. Get your tickets. Go online, nmstatesports.com. We'll see you next week for the Mesilla Valley News Sports Podcast.